Yes, we can get it to you by a lump sum by school for the 70 through 2014.
Yeah, I think that would be important for everybody to see.
The thing is that if I may caution us with that,
Sure.
is that the data we're looking at to generate these numbers, we're looking out to year 2014. And we're saying, based upon the useful life of a particular system, we see it needing to be replaced in 2014. It may not be needed to be replaced in 2014, so we would put that off another couple of years, 3 years before then. Because we're not going to simply replace something if the manufacturer says it could only give you 15 years of useful life, because in fact we may get 20 years of useful life out of it. But this structure is set up using those manufacturers' useful lives.
Okay, but aren't you fairly certain about the 31 and the 3? Because that's this year and
Yes,
next year. Okay.
definitely.
Do we get the information on that?
For those 2 years?
Yes. So
Yes.
Everybody knows what your attack plan is.
Yes.
Mark, how's that play with what we just heard about bond money has to be spent within a certain amount?
We wouldn't borrow the money for that until the year that it's needed. We're showing you what the need is. That's not necessarily, we're asking to borrow $136 million next year. We would borrow $31 million next year.
Why wouldn't you do the same thing with maintenance?
Exactly.
You're asking
That's what we're
voters for
doing.
authorization to borrow. You don't have to borrow the money until you need it.
But that's what we're doing here, is asking authorization for 8 years, or through 2014. And we would borrow the money, the 31 million we borrow in 2007, the 3 we'd probably borrow 34 million in 2007 to give us 2 years worth of money, and then 2 years later another sale and another sale and another sale.
I understand. If we had a capital fund, reserve fund, why couldn't you do the same thing with that?
I think that this is what Mr. Loretta was saying.
Identify yourself so everybody knows who
Yes,
you
I'm
are.
Dottie Pullman, school board trustee. I think what Mr. Loretta is saying is, why couldn't we, correct me if I'm wrong, identify in the bonds for later what would not technically be a reserve because we wouldn't have it issued, but identify certain monies in the bond that we would issue later to do those kinds of major maintenance that could be projected. Is that, I'm not saying it very well, but I think that's...
Let me ask Marty before we get to that.
I think it's simple enough.
I do too.
A bond is an authorization to borrow money. You don't
Exactly.
borrow it until you actually need it. And
Exactly.
it works for that, where it works for the school. You're not going to sell the $232 million for which you need in 2012 until you need it, right? Well, why won't having a laid out capital reserve program so that you don't come back in 10 or 15 years and have a $200 and some million shortfall for revitalization and classroom renewal, why can't those be included as part of authorization when you don't borrow the money that you need?
So what I understand you to be suggesting is that what we would do for those new schools, at that last slide, have a schedule, a 30-year schedule of what we anticipate to be the capital renewal needs of it, the dollar amounts, and get approval for selling bonds for those amounts at the time we're getting authorization for the sale of the bonds at the time for the funds to build the school.
Something like that.
Yeah.
You know, let's get a little more specific. If we do what you're asking and suggesting in revitalization and renewal, what happens to Glenville Elementary? What's it going to look like after this?
It's not going to look a whole lot different, except for the classroom renewal project. We'll have new carpeting, paint the walls, do something with the air conditioning, put new windows in there, put new doors and door hardware in there. And what you're going to see with the technology piece is then you'll have the projectors, the interactive whiteboards, as well as computers for all the students. But we'll also have money for new roofs. To keep up and replace and also pull out all the air conditioning. All those, that boiler you saw on that one, pull that out, be able to use that space for something else, as well as remove all the fan systems that are in the classrooms and free up room, and do acoustical work with the air conditioning system.